You are watching Notepad. I'm your host, Ibrahim Sani. In the middle of the week, we've heard a lot of news about the vaccines and about COVID-19, but we just want to move away a little bit more on the COVID-19 developments in the country and instead focus on some developments in the region as well as some business developments that might be interesting for you, particularly if you are in the fundraising mode. Freshworks crosses the 300 million ARR and closes 2020 with over 40% year-over-year ARR growth. Freshworks, of course, is a customer engagement software company, and because of that, there's a lot of developments when it comes to Freshworks. Joining us is Vinod Chandramouli, the head of Asean business. Hi, how are you, Vinod?
I'm doing really good, Ibrahim. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Fantastic. The conversation has always been about COVID and vaccine and everything else this week. I just want to move away from that and try to focus a little bit more on the commercial aspect of things in and around the region. Let's talk a little bit more about Freshworks. What is Freshworks all about?
Yeah, Freshworks has been in the customer engagement industry for the last 10 years. With Freshworks, businesses are presented with an ultimate customer engagement platform which empowers their employees to go and do whatever they need to take to win a customer and enhance the customer experience. So our suite of product, which is on the cloud and it's a SaaS subscription-based model, has been empowering 220,000 businesses across the globe in the last 10 years. And we've had a wide spectrum of customers from different backgrounds who utilize us for day in and day out mission-critical communications with their customers.
And what kind of customers are you looking at right now? Big companies, small retail customers?
Customer experience in itself touches almost all the verticals, including the likes of your industry in itself as well. So we boast ourselves customers from across the spectrum, from across the globe. About 140 countries is where our customers are based out of. And all these 220,000 customers consist of different verticals. Obviously, retail, B2C industries are where the customer experience is sort of prominent. But we do have customers like AMOS, iPay88 here in Malaysia, but also a lot of retailers, a lot of government, a lot of schools, universities as well. So it's the whole wide spectrum, Ibrahim.
And what made it possible for you guys to cross the 300 million mark right now?
Yeah, I think 300 million mark was almost just a milestone for us. Also, although we didn't even realize that we had hit the 300 million mark until the PR came out. We've always been very consistently focused on bringing a refreshingly newer angle to any sort of a customer engagement. That's how we started 10 years ago with our founder and CEO experiencing a sort of a bad customer support himself, and then taking on the challenge of building a platform which can enable both the brands and also the customers who reach out to these brands to engage better. So in the last 10 years, our focus has been on the user experience. The focus has been on crystal clear utilization of our product for business needs. And coupled with the investments we've made over the last 10 years with both the resources, expansion of our office, and expansion of our customer base is one of the reasons why we've crossed the 300 million mark, and we probably will be crossing many more milestones.
Let's talk a little bit more about the developments of the company per se, starting with the two acquisitions, AnswerIQ and as well as the other one. Is this more of trying to grow your machine learning capabilities, your artificial intelligence capabilities, or is this more of consolidating within that space you guys are operating in?
Yeah, it's a good question. And we've always been looking out for new technologies we could always, inculcate into our platform. And our decision of acquiring both AnswerIQ and Flint, although is to do with automation, it's part of two different product sets for us. AnswerIQ is in the world of chatbot and enabling automations for customer engagement with your front-end customers, or as we call it, the B2C or B2B customers, and not the employees. And we've been utilizing their technology to enable our bot capabilities, and that's turning out to be really well. They bring very competent product technology in there. And then the Flint has been more to do with our employee engagement space, again with automations, again with enabling productivity hacks within our platform, but that's more for internal employees and IT and ITSM rather than external employees, which is where Answer IQ is focused on. So the trend has always been to look at which part of our product needs to increase or improve a little more depending on the market capabilities. And even in the past, our acquisitions have always been to see how much of a needle can this move. And that's really one of the reasons why our company decided to acquire both Answer IQ and Flint.
And has the integration been okay, or there's going to be a lot of kinks in terms of trying to get not just the technology and the science behind the two companies working together with yours, but the culture, the integration of the people, and all that?
Yeah, I think that's always I would say a thing to watch out for. I've been through about 11 acquisitions within Freshworks, or 10, I think, and I think it's one of the big reasons why I continue to be with Freshworks is the culture we have. So we're very clear not just to give time to people who we acquire to get used to us. So I'm assuming, although I'm not directly involved in a lot of these acquisitions myself, I've always been introduced to new people joining us as if it's just another employee. So from a people perspective, from a culture perspective, I definitely think we've gotten way better. And you know, we are in interaction. Paddy, who was the CEO of Answer IQ, currently leads our overall customer experience as the CCO, and his leadership has sort of strengthened us to get into 2021 better. From a technology alignment perspective, we've already included a lot of this. We have a method to this sort of madness of including the newer technology into ours. The advantage we have is because we are on the cloud and a lot of our services are microservices, it's easy to plug and play into other services as well. So the Answer IQ part, I wouldn't say is completely included, but we are starting to see a lot of results from the acquisition we've made for both these companies and the acquisitions in the past as well.
You guys are growing strength to strength, and because of that, there's a host of hiring internally, including new chief product revenue officer, new CFO, new customer officer, chief customer officer. It seems like this is on a stage 2 turbo growth for the company. Is that what it feels like from an outside observer looking into Freshworks?
Yeah. I think a turbo boost is probably a good way of representing this. It has actually been accelerating growth for us, both in the last 10 years, ever since I joined 6 years ago, and probably in the last 1 year as well. So that's sort of the turbo charge forward has always been very constant, I would say. That's sort of the feeling we get. You know, when you look at how we placed as an organization, even before pandemic, we had about 11 offices, and all of us were sort of looking at expansion individually within these offices. With pandemic, our CEO Girish would like to say that we've moved to now 3,600 offices across the globe, which is all the homes. And we don't really seem to stop when it comes to growth. Our leadership has strengthened. We have Prakash, who is our Chief Product Officer. He's bringing a lot of maturity into the way we are thinking. Because when you think about Ibrahim, the customers we deal with, we've got the whole spectrum, obviously on the vertical, but we also have the whole spectrum on the size as well. We have customers who pay us or use a freemium product and pay us $0 to customers who pay us $1 or $2, all the way to customers who pay us $100,000 per month as well. So to sort of manage this, I would say, this growth, both from a customer, technology, and everything, we've continued to strengthen our leadership. Prakash is coming to lead our product. Jose has come in to lead our revenue and the go-to-market strategy. Paddy is coming to lead our customer experience and customer success strategy. So yeah, obviously Tyler, who's our CFO, is helping us into the next few milestones of what these large organizations do in the stage we are in. So I'm very excited to be both an employee but also leading a business within Freshworks, given that this strengthening has sort of helped us move forward, Ibrahim.
One of the big reasons why I wanted to do this interview with Freshworks, with you, is to discuss the status of your company when it comes to IPO, when it comes to fundraising. When we preface this interview, it's been a few years now since you guys raised that $150 million on a Series H. I'm not too sure if there's more fundraising rounds after that, but seeing that you guys have surpassed that 300 million subscription rate right now, and seeing that an IPO conversation is undeniably or inevitably going to take place, what is the long-term plans when it comes to being listed on stock exchange and taking the company public? What's the story there?
Yeah, I absolutely think that IPO, in one of the press releases we said, somebody had said that IPO is looming. And I think that's been there, although from internal, what we are considering it to be just another milestone. And what that means is we are here to sort of our mission is to sort of get across the globe wherever there is a need for customer engagement, wherever there's a need for enhancement. We already have about 11 products, which we can go deeper into and build our own expertise in many of these. So our customer experience software called Freshdesk is the leader when it comes to that particular industry. And our Fresh Service, our ITSM product, is a leader. So similar to it, we have the capability to expand into the entire business suite a brand needs. So both the funding which we raised in the past and many other fundings we've raised so far has always been sort of a milestone rather than a necessity or a need to run the business. Fortunately, we are in a business where the demands are almost very constant as long as our innovation can keep up with it. Obviously, there's a lot of competition as well. We encourage competition. That's how the growth happens. So in the interest of us moving forward and enabling these 11 and expansion of our 11 products, we'll obviously look at an IPO to strengthen our capabilities, to sort of give us the cushion we would need to invest in the right areas. So there is obviously a lot of plans in place to get us to where we need to go. We're also looking at the right time, although we don't necessarily need the capital. We haven't even utilized the last funding we had raised yet, because I think we have enough fuel coming in from both our customers and also from the growth we've had. But an IPO is going to help us obviously set the stage up the right way, will help us showcase the maturity of our product. So we are working towards it. There is a separate team of people who are working towards it. And obviously we'll come to know more when the time is right.
Your founder and CEO, Girish, was talking about not being in a rush to raise funds, and basically what you're saying is the same thing. So does this mean that because of the fact that you guys are okay when it comes to cash, the focus will be on growing the business and perhaps focusing on some regions? Is ASEAN a core region for Freshworks?
It is, yes, it is. And that's one of the reasons why we decided to focus more here. ASEAN's always been a big focus for us. But let me answer the first question you had. Is yes, of course, the idea is to utilize the cash in the most, I would say in the most easiest way possible, where there is an investment required. Although we don't shy away from investment, we ensure that we bring in a lot of efficiency when we do it. So even when we are nearing to an IPO, the need would be to check that as a milestone, celebrate it, but not really depend on the capital we get, because whatever we take, including the product we build, we ensure that there's a lot of efficiency, that there's a lot of thought process involved. ASEAN as a business is at the core. APAC, Asia Pacific as a business is core for a couple of reasons. One is we are dual headquartered, both in the US but also in India. And I have been in this industry for the last 17, 18 years. That usually Asia Pacific is kept as a well kept secret within organizations. There is not a lot of conversation which happens if you are a US-based company in a place like Asia. It's usually an afterthought. But with us being a global company from day one, our first customer actually came from Australia rather than the US, although we are headquartered in the US. Obviously, majority of our shares are in the US. When I mean customer shares are in the US, Europe, again, is a big market for us. But in Asia Pacific, we strongly believe that there is a lot of synergy with our product because, I come to realize that leaders in Asia Pacific, especially in Southeast Asia, strongly care for enhancing any aspect of customer experience. That's very evident when you get into a Kuala Lumpur or Singapore or any other Southeast Asian countries, is the care they take for customer experience, which means we are rightly placed. We've seen tremendous growth the last 3 years. I have been seeing the team grow from where they are to where they are today. We've had customers grow in this region as well. And we are continuing to invest both time and energy into an Asia Pacific market. So absolutely, I think both Asia Pacific, Southeast Asia, ASEAN, even Malaysia for that matter, is a very core a strategy for us in this growth.
Being in the company for 6 years, you were there when the company was still in Chennai, and then you were also there when the company moved into Silicon Valley and getting all these Sand Hill Road types of investors, including Excel Ventures and all that. Do you feel that that move, that physical movement away from India into Silicon Valley is required for you guys to achieve that level of operational capacity that you guys are on right now, that move? Do you feel that Silicon Valley is actually key to growing the company?
Absolutely. I think more than is Silicon Valley the key is a question probably our CEO could probably answer because I haven't moved there. But from what I see, the move has definitely enabled us to think in a worldwide perspective. Could we have thought about this if we were just based in India? I don't know. I don't have the answer to it. But to me, what had happened is getting to Silicon Valley obviously had put a definite highlight in the SaaS map for us. We were sort of known. We are sort of continued to be known as an organization which focuses on this SaaS product. So joining the choir, I think is one of the reasons. Although it could have been any location at that particular point when we didn't move to Silicon Valley as an afterthought. We actually registered our organization in the US right from day one, just so we could look at funding from the likes of Google, from the likes of Axel, Tiger, whoever else is invested in us. But then the idea of Silicon Valley isn't to get the most out of Silicon Valley. The idea of Silicon Valley is to see if we could attract talent, if we could recognize, or if we could get recognized in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, in the Forrester, wherever else people oftentimes look for. And that has been one big motivation for us. We continue to strengthen our office here in India and also everywhere as well. We have a 3,000 strong member team sitting in Chennai, doing a lot of product development, doing a lot of engineering, doing a lot of growth and marketing as well. So I think 2020 has shown us that we could be nomadic and everywhere. But going to Silicon Valley probably helped us get into that map of SaaS world. So I definitely think that it worked, but would it work for all the other organizations? It depends on the product and depends on the time they get there. It's my perception of time.
Right, Vinod, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk to Vinod more on ASEAN for Freshworks. Right, we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. I have with me Vinod Chandramouli, the head of ASEAN for Freshworks. Vinod, let's talk a little bit more about ASEAN and the strategy that you guys are rolling out here. Are there particular markets that you guys are more interested in ASEAN, and some other markets that you would like to see growth but maybe later? What would be some of the priority markets that you guys are thinking of right now when it comes to ASEAN?
Yeah, yeah. As part of the ASEAN team, we regionally headquartered in Singapore, and that comes from obviously the fact that Singapore has a lot of our competitors, a lot of our customers, and some of our investors also invest in prominent organizations in Singapore. And it was something which we decided we will look at. But immediately with Singapore, obviously, comes Malaysia, both from a proximity, but also from the number of brands which are available who care for customer experience. And customer experience is at the core of the services industry in a country like Philippines. So these three to us are very big, very prominent because of the place and because of the the complexity it does not offer when it comes to language. Both Singapore, Malaysia, and Philippines are very English prominent speaking markets. Which means it's easier for us to focus on our existing product rather than focus very specifically on language capabilities. So it was a no-brainer for us to get there. And we have a lot of customers, big contact centers, a lot of customers in Malaysia, like I mentioned, IP88 and Axmos and all the others. In Singapore, we have Virgin Active, we have a few other organizations too. So we're growing tremendously in these three regions. Sorry about that. In the last 3 to 4 years, we've also seen tremendous growth in Indonesia as a market, for example. We've also seen tremendous growth in Thailand as a market. These two markets require heavy language capabilities. These two markets require a lot of feet on the ground, a lot of local language support, if I may. So we work with partners. We are expanding ourselves in these two regions. And Indonesia, obviously, is the next big hub for startups, a lot of unicorns, a lot of cool startups there as well. So that's our focus market as well. What we've also included in our ASEAN as our charter is Vietnam and Hong Kong and Cambodia. We don't have a lot of base here. There's not a lot of what you call total addressable market. But there is a lot of very interesting companies, especially in a market like Vietnam, where we've seen some amount of growth in the last couple of years. So we have some feet on the ground. We have a lot of partners enabling us to get there. So, holistically, we're looking at Southeast Asia as a very big market, but individually, we are focusing or doubling down on a certain region where we can get immediate, but always on the lookout for what other regions could we expand. And one of that is Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia for us.
It's interesting that you guys have that outlook where that concept of total addressable market may not necessarily be able to be applied in ASEAN. And yes, we are the 700 million population, and if you combine all the GDP together, we are the fourth biggest country if we were a single country, but we're not. And we're rather broken up in various forms and fashion. And because of that, do you think that the thinking has to be in that way for companies who want to grow in ASEAN? They really have to think about some slither of companies that operate in various countries. They got to really think about the kind of customers that they choose. It can't just go into a country and then roll it out as if you would in a 700 million population country around the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that comes with both experience and also the lessons I've learned from many, many years of operating in this region. Like I said, it's a well-kept secret. ASEAN as a region is very dynamic, very similar to Europe as a market, because each country has its own pros and cons when a business has to operate there. And each country actually also looks at the other countries to see how well we have performed in another region. You cannot simply say in Southeast Asia you've won if you just take Singapore, because customers in Singapore oftentimes ask us or actually have offices in other parts of Southeast Asia, and they would want to be operating in a very different way. So I think one of the big things any organization will have to do if they're thinking about expanding in Southeast Asia is not take it lightly as one country or one region. I think at an overall strategy, when we said we're going to look at Southeast Asia, we knew that it will work well simply because of the customer experience capabilities this market has. But when you look at the bottom of the real problem, and when you think about what all complexities you could raise, obviously language is a big thing. Another one is each government has their own way of operating, especially when it comes to compliances, data privacy, when it comes to things you could do there. And then the third one is also each organization or each country has its own set of competitors, local players, its own set of market leaders as well. So when we were thinking about putting the strategy in place, we obviously went both at a hierarchical level at Southeast Asia, but also cutting across each of these regions and saying which of these could we take on now, where we have a low effort, high impact growth, and then build out our journey towards the rest of it. So the last 2-3 years, we've been very aggressively focused on Singapore and Malaysia because it's English, it fits well with our rest of the world. But then over the last 3 years, we've also been focusing on building our capabilities in Indonesia, in Thailand, in other local language-speaking markets as well. So yeah, I don't think Southeast Asia is as easy as people would assume it is. And if they were to consider Europe and America to be complex, Southeast Asia, I think, offers equally complex strategies to be implemented to make a mark in this region.
Vinod, a quick one. We're running out of time. What do you think 2021 will be like? What are the risks that we are looking at for you guys and for businesses in general?
I think 2021 is going to. 2020 has set an unprecedented results on expectations businesses have. Being in the our product is at the core of digital transformation for both small, medium, and large organizations. But 2020 has proved that everybody has got to move towards digitization, which means that it's also going to funnel a lot of people to look at organizations like us, look at our customer engagement platform and go beyond what they have planned or rather planned. So one of our big expectations is the platform in itself is going to be holistically used. That's why we are investing in our one of the big issues with technology these days is this unpredictability. But our platform, the cloud platform, will offer 360-degree view of customer engagement across different brands. So one of the things we strongly believe in is obviously now there's going to be a lot more focus on customer experience in this digital transformation journey. What we see as, I wouldn't call it a big risk, but what we need to watch out for is the number of players who come into a market like this offering microservices, right? There is a lot of growth, and we as an organization came across as this as well. So it will always be very interesting to see what these competition and customers, what path do they take? Because that to me is where the digital transformation is leading to. So we are very heavily focused on accelerating organizations' digital transformation in today's needs rather than worry about it in the past. We call it an iPhone moment, where before iPhone came, there were 6 or 7 products a person had to use to listen to music or to look at a GPS or even take a photograph. And then all of that is getting into one phone. So similar to it, our platform or this cloud platform, Freshworks' cloud platform, enabled by a Freddy, we think will be that iPhone moment for business softwares as well. So that's a very exciting thing we are looking forward to implementing in 2021 and beyond, Ibrahim.
Right, thank you. That was Vinod Chandramouli, the head of ASEAN business for Freshworks. If you've missed any part of this interview, just head on to Astro AWANI. Look for Notepad over there. There are plenty of interviews that can be found there. Until then, thanks very much for watching and goodbye.